Opposition Leader Peter Dutton.
Delivery to the people of Ukraine. It's saved lives. It's helped in their effort to push back against the Russians. And since then, there's been a go slow from this government, and I don't understand why.
And what more should the government do, though, today to resolve that situation for Canberra?
Well, they've got options available to them under the law. There are diplomatic options and representations that can be made, and they'll weigh up all of those equities, including obviously the presence that we have in Moscow, and they will make decisions, and we will support those decisions because that's in our country's best interests.
Does it surprise you what you're seeing on the ground there? It's not something you're often seeing.
Well, it's disappointing, but I think it shows a flagrant disregard of international law and common decency, to be honest. I think that's what the world is seeing from Vladimir Putin at the moment, and the Russian staff or diplomat, or I don't know his status, but whatever it is, should vacate the site and should adhere to the laws of our country.
In relation to the voice, are you asking for the referendum to be delayed because you think it might help the No campaign?
I think the Prime Minister has made a catastrophic mistake here in starving detail from the Australian public. I think there are millions of Australians who just want to know what it is they're being asked to vote for. This is the biggest change to our Constitution in 120 years. It's a new chapter being inserted into the Constitution. It means that our whole system of government will change because the voice, as Megan Davis and others have pointed out, these are the hand-picked people by the Prime Minister who sit on the committee that have designed this thing. They have been very open about it. By its very design, the voice is going to have the ability to have a say on every area of government responsibility. The expansive words that have been put into the Constitution can't be undone by any bill that passes the Parliament. Our nation's rule book is the most important thing in our country at the moment. Let's be very clear about it, and it has been from 1901. It's allowed us to be a free and democratic nation. It's allowed a freedom of speech, and it's allowed a rule of law to be enforced that is the envy of the world. People come to our country because of the system of government we have. The lifestyle here in Fadden is the envy of many people around the world. And if the Prime Minister is proposing a voice, which is going to be a Canberra-based voice, then he needs to explain how it will work. And at the moment, his decision to not provide that detail means that it's going to be lost, in my judgment, and on all of the evidence that we see at the moment. Or in the best case scenario for the yes case, it'll be 51-49, which means in effect that our country is split down the middle. And the Prime Minister is making a decision at the moment which is dividing our country, not uniting our country. And what we're saying is that the two parties could come together, provide constitutional recognition, and we could work together in legislation around the voice to allow local and regional bodies to be heard so that we can make a positive and practical difference on the ground in those Indigenous communities. All of us want a better outcome for Indigenous Australians, particularly in regional and remote areas. But at the moment, the Prime Minister is taking our country down a divisive path. He says that our international reputation will be harmed and that the reconciliation cause will be set back if the referendum is unsuccessful in October. I agree that it sets back reconciliation, and if the Prime Minister is set on that course, going to an election or going to a referendum election knowing that it's going to fail and that reconciliation will be set back, he should delay it or pull it back altogether. And we've asked decent, respectful questions. I wrote to the Prime Minister more than 6 months ago asking 15 questions on behalf of millions of Australians, still no response. We asked Minister Burney over 20 questions in question time this week, no coherent response. And the legal uncertainty and ambiguity here is quite remarkable. And to change the Constitution in this way is without precedent. There's been no constitutional referendum, there's been no guarantees, and there can be no certainties or guarantees about the limitations because by design it does cover every area of government. So I think the Prime Minister needs to really take a long, hard look, stop the hubris and start acting in our country's best interests.